So let's talk about a task force that was maybe a little too good at its job. This is the story of South Africa's Political Killings Task Team, or the PKT. It was a huge success, celebrated by pretty much everyone, right up until it was suddenly shut down. We're going to unpack exactly how that happened, based on the sworn testimony of the man who was in charge of the whole thing. And that's really the central question here, isn't it? At the heart of this story is a huge mystery. You have this high-performing unit getting praise from the highest levels of government, and then poof, it's gone. The official reasons just don't seem to add up with what was actually happening on the ground. So what was really going on? For the man leading the PKTT, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, the news was a total shock. I mean, just imagine it. It's New Year's Day 2025. You're supposed to be celebrating, and instead your phone is just blowing up. But it's not Happy New Year messages. It's panicked calls from your own team, who are seeing on social media that their entire unit has just been disbanded. And the craziest part, Khumalo, their boss, hadn't even been told officially. Yeah, the whole thing gets even more puzzling when you look at the timeline. In September 2023, the big-shot Inter-Ministerial Committee that oversaw the team made a formal resolution. They said the team was so important, it cannot be dissolved. Fast forward just 15 months, and a new Minister of Police issues a directive to get rid of it. Immediately. What on earth could have changed so drastically? To really get why this was such a bombshell, we need to back up a bit. We've got to understand what the PKT was and why everyone thought it was this incredible model of success. Because, this wasn't just another police unit. It was a whole new way of thinking about how to solve a very, very dangerous kind of crime. So the PKT was set up back in 2018, and it was a different kind of beast altogether. It was this multidisciplinary powerhouse, pulling in experts from all over. And their secret weapon? This really innovative analysis-led approach. And you gotta remember, this wasn't some rogue operation. It had the full backing of an Inter-Ministerial Committee, all the way up to the presidency. And this, right here, shows you just how brilliant their strategy was. See, a traditional investigation usually asks, who pulled the trigger? The PKTT completely flipped the script. They asked a different question. Who wanted the victim dead? By focusing on the motive, they went after the masterminds, the guys who ordered the hit. The goal wasn't just to catch a shooter, it was to tear down the whole criminal syndicate from the top. Now, this unique method turned out to be so successful that the team's work started to get bigger. They figured out pretty quickly that these political killings were really just the tip of a giant iceberg, all connected to a huge network of organized crime. And that led them to this idea of parallel dockets. So these were cases that, on the surface, had nothing to do with each other. A robbery over here, an illegal gun bust over there. But the PKTT found that a single gun could be the thread that tied it all together, linking these random crimes back to their main political murder cases. So how did that actually work? Well, imagine this. The team does an intelligence-driven raid and finds an illegal gun. They run ballistics, and it comes back with a match. But it's not just a match to the political murder they're investigating. It's also linked to some armed robbery that seemed totally unrelated. And bam, suddenly the suspects from that robbery are now key figures in a murder investigation, and that whole criminal web starts to unravel. And believe me, this wasn't just some little side project for them. By the end of 2024, these parallel and ad hoc cases, a lot of them tied to illegal firearms, made up a massive chunk of their caseload. We're talking more than 200 cases in total. This wider net was absolutely central to their success. And here is the absolutely critical point. This wasn't some secret, off-the-books expansion. General Khumalo testified that the team reported this wider scope in every single meeting with the Inter-Ministerial Committee. And the committee, they didn't just know about it, they supported it. They even passed resolutions to make sure these parallel cases were included in the official progress reports. Okay, so that brings us to the final frantic month, December 2024. The PKT was busier than ever, and they were closing in on a really high-stakes investigation. And it's this chain of events that, according to the testimony, seems to kick off the final countdown to their shutdown. Just take a look at how this timeline plays out. December 6th, the team questions a very high-profile person. Less than 2 weeks later, they go to his business and seize 18 firearms. A few days before Christmas, General Khumalo gets a tip-off that there's a plot to frame him and his team. And then on New Year's Eve, the directive to disband the team is issued. I mean, the timing is, let's just say, it's pretty suspicious. As General Khumalo himself put it in his testimony, the irony was just glaring. This incredibly busy month, packed with high-profile operations and what seemed like attempts to undermine them, ended with the one thing that could stop their work cold: that disbandment letter. So, what happened next? After the letter dropped, a series of really tense meetings went down in early 2025. And it's right here, in General Khumalo's testimony about these meetings, that we get to the real heart of why this team was shut down. So you had two totally different ideas on the table. The police leadership, including General Khumalo, were arguing for a sensible, gradual wind-down, to protect all the active cases and make sure their successful methods were preserved. But according to the testimony, the minister just wasn't having it. He demanded they shut down immediately, even if it meant years of hard work would just go right down the drain. And this quote from the testimony, wow, it is so telling. The main argument against a careful wind-down wasn't about logistics or proper procedure. No. It was simply that it would let the PKTT exist for too long. The goal, it seems, wasn't just to end the team, but to end it right now. So what was the official reason they gave in writing? The directive said the decision was based on an assessment showing the team wasn't contributing much anymore, which of course brings up a very obvious question. What assessment? Who did it? What did it say? And the answer, from the man who actually led the project, is just unbelievable. General Khumalo testified that he, the head of the PKT, had never been shown this assessment. He'd never even heard of it. The official justification for killing his highly successful team was some document he knew nothing about. And then, during a really tense meeting on March 27, 2025, the real reason apparently came spilling out. According to Khumalo's testimony, when he was pressed on it, the minister just said flat out, "It took a political decision to create the PKTT, so it'll take a political decision to end it." It gets even more extraordinary when the police leadership reminded the minister that, hey, the president himself started this team. The response was, supposedly, a very blunt, "We should not mention the president." That really suggests a decision being made at the ministerial level, one that might even be in conflict with the highest office in the country. So, you put all these pieces together, what do you get? Well, General Khumalo's conclusion is pretty clear. The team went from being praised to being shut down almost overnight. For him, the only thing that makes sense is that their aggressive investigations in December 2024 made them a target, and it kicked off a campaign to get them out of the way, no matter what it meant for all the cases they were working on. And that leaves us with this final, really big, uncomfortable question. See, the story of the PKT isn't just about one police team. It's a case study in what happens when something actually works. When a system that's designed to fight corruption and organized crime works so well that it gets shut down, what does that tell you about the very forces it was created to confront?